Great afternoon, of ours. Thank you for tuning in and viewing with us. Happy Black History Month.
Recording in progress.
Happy Black History Month. Today is February 1st, 2022. We are excited to be able to not only celebrate our history, but continue to be history makers, right? So thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to the February Lunch and Learn program. My name is Thea Faulkner, and I have the honor to serve as the Executive Director of the Lunch and Learn series. Unfortunately, we're still virtual, but fortunately, we can still come together and share valuable information. Ladies, I am absolutely delighted. I feel like I've been invited to the table at Thanksgiving to be surrounded by such amazing queens who are doing such amazing work. I'm reminded of a quote that says, now that I'm in the room, I'm to, and all these men say, I'm so glad to have everyone here. I don't want to delay the time because we have much to do. So let's please stop and pause for a moment for our invocation. Father God, we come before you, God, just thanking you and asking you to just bless our time together. We come because you have given us the avenue to come. We come because you have demonstrated your faithfulness and your power, that God, anything that concerns us concerns you. So we ask that you would bless our time together, God, that it would be fruitful and edifying to your people and for your kingdom. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. So, ladies, this month, we are continuing a theme that we have for 2022, and that's economic empowerment. As women, we take care of everybody else. We want to ensure that we are taking care of the resources that we have been blessed to have, that we're good stewards of them, and that we are mindful of how policies, procedures, and practices and knowledge impact how we deal with our own financial literacy and financial efficacy. I am delighted this afternoon, that the amazing Willie Jones, our president, will serve as our moderator for a panel this morning with 4 women. They will discuss economic security for women, and we have Arikia Bennett with Mississippi Votes. Wave at us, Arikia. Thank you. Kyra Roby with One Voice. Hi, Kyra. Nishambi Lambright with One Voice. And Cassandra Welston with the Black Women's Roundtable. We'll hear from these women in just a moment, but we are first going to recognize and celebrate 2 very important ladies in our community who are our Business of the Month and our Member of the Month. So Lakeisha Clark will introduce our Woman-Owned Business of the Month. We'll hear from that person. And then Dr. Loretta Jackson-Williams will introduce our Member of the Month. We'll hear from her. And the next voice you will hear following that will be of our moderator, President Willie Jones. Thank you, ladies.
Good afternoon, everyone. How are you all doing? All right, so I am to Angela Grayson. Ms. Angela Grayson is a talented, results-producing project manager with a proven record of accomplishment in leading organizations supporting business goals and objectives. Angela currently serves as advocacy and outreach coordinator for Lighthouse Black Girls Project, which is an awesome project. I have not worked with them directly, but I have worked with them with my daughter, so they're an awesome project. I do know that. Her expertise in community organizing, leadership development, strategic planning, and steering the community, the execution of organizational goals enhances the forward progression of the team. Through her business, Data Rich Solutions, LLC, Angela has exceeded her role as campaign manager for successful campaigns of state representatives, mayors, 3 county sheriffs, city council members, and a host of local elected officials and ballot initiatives. This work drives Angela's passion for working alongside elected officials to ensure and of Black girls and women, and make the political office an obtainable goal for Black women. As a teaching ministry at Relevant Empowerment Church, she is committed to the progressive development of the body of Christ, the effective shepherding of its people, and its intersectionality to social justice. She desires to see people grow spiritually through the teaching and daily applications of God's divine work. Angela is the mother of Tamaya and Takira, who are round out her crafting, binge watching, karaoke loving Black girl dream team. So may I present to some and introduce to others, Miss Angela Grayson.
Good evening, ladies. Thank you so much for having me today, and thank you, Women for Progress, and thank you to Miss Willie Jones, the president, for this honor. It was completely out of the blue for me and surprising, but it most definitely is a pleasure and an honor to have this designation for this month in such an esteemed group of women. So I just want to say thank you. It is important to me to use any platform at any time to uplift the work that is so near to me, and that is making sure that Black women and Black girls and the people who love us have a voice in places where we otherwise would not have one, and making sure that we are doing whatever we can do to create spaces of solidarity and safety for Black girls and women at a time in history when so many people are making sure that we don't have those spaces and infringing on the places that we have designated for that, for us and for those spaces. So thank you so much for highlighting me and that work, because I do believe that work is so important to us all. Thank you.
Well, hello. I have the opportunity and the pleasure of introducing our member of the month, Denise Ely. She has provided a wonderful professional summary, and I will give some of the information from that. She is the president and CEO of Loving Health Care Incorporated and LHC Seniors Association Incorporated. She's a female minority owner who has been in business for over 19 years, benefiting from continued growth annually. In addition, she owns a results-oriented home care and adult day health care center, executive with a demonstrated record of accomplishment in maximizing market penetration. Her business can be found in communities throughout the state of Mississippi, and she employs over 300 individuals, making a significant economic impact. That's part of what we've been talking about. The Loving Health Care headquarters is located here in Jackson, Mississippi, and there are 3 satellite office locations and 2 adult day health centers locations. Denise believes that keeping God first and doing the right thing are the keys to her success. She's passionate about her services to make life better for seniors by allowing them the opportunity to stay in their homes longer rather than being institutionalized in a nursing home. When she and I had the opportunity to kind of talk about her vision of herself, I was really surprised because she mentioned that she's very shy. She considers herself a country girl. And in 2022, she's pushing beyond that comfort zone and presenting herself here today for us. So thank you so much, Denise. We really appreciate you. Denise Ely.
Thank you all so much. It's definitely a shock. I want to thank Women for Progress for thinking about me, reaching out to me. I'd like to thank our president, Willie Jones. She knows I'm a very shy person. It's just shocking. But again, I like to say thank you. It has been amazing. These last 20 years, I'm kind of shocked. I look back at things the way it started. It started by helping a neighbor, just a kind act of helping a neighbor. Now it's my livelihood, something that I'm passionate about. And I believe in my community. So again, I want to give God all the glory. Because of him, I'm able to do what I do and enjoy it. And I like to say thank you all as well for Women for Progress. Thank you.
And Thea, if I can just say, I cannot let this lady leave this table today. Miss Denise Ely is somebody I've known for I don't know how many years. I don't even know how we met. But while I was in the home health industry, she was somebody that I leaned on so heavily. She does this with a passion. And if you worked in the home health industry around seniors and the most important people that are in our lives, you know it's a major challenge. And Denise does it with such dedication and such excellence and such care. And she is a woman that I just want to just give so much pat on the back for, because of not only what she do, but who she is. And she is so deserving of this recognition from Women for Progress. I think I was just saying the other day, my goodness, why haven't we done this before now? Because almost 20 years of service requires a definitely salute in the industry she is. But I just want to say I love Miss Ely. She is one of the most incredible women on the planet. When I closed my own home health agency, I said, what am I going to do with my clients that have been with me for so many years? I need somebody who's going to love on them, who's going to provide them the support, continued support and care. And Miss Ely stepped in and said, I'll do it. And not only did she did it, she did every commitment that she told me she was going to do. And that's who she is. And I just love for her. And thank you, Denise, for being part of this organization. Thank you for providing so much of what you do in this community. And we just want you to keep on keeping on. You're an asset that we need. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies. Can you all just unmute for a moment to just give all of our honorees a round of applause? Excellent. Thank you. And so thank you and congratulations again to Ms. Ely and Ms. Grayson. Ms. Grayson, I tell you what, I love the fact that as a young woman, you are providing such leadership to the next generation. So we salute you and thank you for the work that you're doing. All right, Willie, I'm passing the baton to you.
Wow, that was quick. Okay. But I know this hour is going to go by extremely fast. So I want to get right into our conversation today. I'm so excited we're bringing, this committee has brought together this amazing panel of women who do the work every day. And right here in our state of Mississippi. So I'm so excited to have this discussion. It's a very important discussion, and an hour does not do it justice. But we have to continue this conversation. If we want to solve the issues, we want the issues, the problems to go away and solutions to come to the table, we have to have dialogue. And that's what this conversation today is about. So I'm so excited to be part of it, and we'll jump right in. Once we finish our dialogue with our questions with our panel, we'll ask our guests that are on with us on the Zoom to also provide we'll open the floor for any questions that you might have. Also, those of you who are listening, and thank you so much. We're getting a pretty good crowd that's with us today. If you have questions of our panel, you have comments for us, please put them in the comment section on the Facebook page where you're listening in, and we'll ask those of our panelists. And also any information that you provide, any links or any conversations around our topic, we want to hear from you. That is your way. This is a conversation. This is a dialogue. And we're doing it through Zoom. We're doing it through our Facebook. And we want to hear from you. So thank you all so much. I want to get right started. So first thing I want to do is allow each of our panelists today to just give a brief introduction of themselves and tell us who you are, what you do, and very briefly, and then we'll get started. Okay, all you shy women, I'll start with Attorney Roby.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kyra Roby. I'm a policy analyst at One Voice, and my work focuses on fiscal policy and just mainly issues surrounding the state's tax and budget system, but also policy around One Voice's campaigns that includes criminal justice, voting rights, leadership development, and education.
I'll go. Hey, everyone. I'm Cassandra Welchman, Executive Director and co-convener of the Mississippi Black Women's Roundtable. We are an intergenerational network and that focuses on civic engagement by really working to increase voter participation among Black women and Black communities. We also champion public policies that impact Black women and girls' lives in the state of Mississippi. And we are an affiliate of the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation. We have 4 program areas of work, which is, of course, our policy advocacy work, which is the Mississippi Women's Economic Security Initiative, our civic engagement work, transformational leadership, and our community outreach and rapid response. So happy to be here with all of these fabulous Black girl magic on the first day of Black History Month.
Cool, I'll go. Good morning, afternoon. My name is Erika Bennett. I'm the Executive Director at Mississippi Votes. We are a youth civic engagement organization dedicated to making sure that young people are integrated in the political process. And so we do tons of voter registration, but we also do a lot of policy advocacy work around rights restoration and making sure that Mississippi's electoral policies are modernized. And, you know, a lot of times that's really hard, but here we are, still fighting and still trying. So really excited to join this panel of women that I admire and look up to. So thank you for having me.
Hey, everybody. Nashawn B. Lambright, Executive Director of One Voice. Kyra talked a little bit about what we do, but we're a 16-year-old policy advocacy organization that has been in the state of Mississippi and Louisiana for the past 16 years, but has only been in the state of Mississippi for the past 10 years.
Wow, this is an incredible team of incredible women that are doing incredible work. So I want to set the tone for our conversation today. Women serve as the primary or co-breadwinner in the majority of families in the South. So women are key to states' economic health. Yet women are more likely to live in poverty or not paid wages equal to men, and many women face discrimination in the workplace. Fewer opportunities and lower pay undermine women's lifetime income, which not only affects her own life, but also her children and family members. Economically empowered women and moms are the key to healthy and successful families and intergenerational economic mobility. Our conversations today about the status of women, where we are, where we need to go. And so I'm so glad to have this conversation today. And I want to start by giving each lady this morning that's on our panel just a couple minutes to answer our opening question, which is, in the place where you sit, stand, lead every day, how do you define economic security for women? And let's start with Miss Cassandra.
This is a really important question, and I like the way you framed it. How do we sit? How do we stand in this? And how do we explain what that is for us? And I will have to say, for me, you know, I do this work, and my colleagues that sit here with me, we do this work because we are the work. It is our families that are impacted also by you know, economic security. And so as I frame what is economic security, it really is about women having access to all the things that she needs in order to be able to take care of her family, so that she can also leave some kind of generational impact and legacy with her family around wealth, right? It's about liberation. It's about, liberating our capital so that we can be great and do the things that we need to do. It's about having access to childcare, higher wages, making sure that women have seats at the table so that they can be a part of the implementation and the formation of public policy. So that's a long answer, but it's all of those things. It's not just one thing, but just so women can be able to participate, and so that they also can be able to have what they need to take care of their kitchen tables. Our pocketbooks matter to this economy and to our households.
Ms. Nashambi?
Yeah, I'm just amening everything that Cassandra says. We've all sat at some of these tables together, so we're probably going to repeat one another. But a lot of us have come from a reproductive justice framework. And so when I was hearing Cassandra talk, that's the first thing that came to mind when I think about women's economic security. We don't live our lives in vacuums. And so I can't just say, once we get that living wage, that's going to be it for us. Because if I have a good job and my house is falling apart, then I'm still not in a good situation. Or if I have a good job and a nice home, but I don't have access to quality health care, then I still have some problems. So as, Cassandra talked about, I have to have the child care. I have to have the access to health care. I have to have a good job. I have to have access to mental health care. I have to have all of these things to make my life whole as a woman. And that leads me to true economic security in life. And until we all just kind of come together and think about what it takes to put those things together in our society, in our communities, then that's the direction that we need to go in.
Right. And Enrique?
Yeah, I think it's impossible to have this conversation without reproductive health and reproductive justice being at the center. I think we all agree that economic security aligns with the basic human rights of people being able to provide for themselves and their families, the right to work, the right to receive a fair and equitable wage. And for me, that looks like and feels like women and femme folks and LGBTQ folks having a steady, livable income that allows for them to be a little freer, being able to afford groceries and childcare, absolutely take care of their health and their well-being. I think specifically Black women and Black femme folks are viable to the vitality of this world. And when we take care of women, I think it's Women for Women, the Women's Foundation of Mississippi says when we take care of women, we take care of ourselves. And so when we take care of women, we also take care of our communities and our affairs and government relations, because Black women and women of color always do the right thing for community, and we don't live single issue lives, and we have to continue to talk about economic security as a multi-pronged issue because it is.
Kara?
Yeah, I'm just going to echo what everybody was saying. And when I think of economic security as well, think of, the now as some of the ladies were talking about in terms of, livable wages and careers and what that looks like. And when you add in well-being and health on top of all of that, but also talking about the future as well. And I think that's something that we spend a lot of time on when we're talking to policymakers about some of the things that impact women and impact all Mississippians really is trying to be able to take care of making sure that we have the resources that we need now, but also to be able to prepare us and get us in line for, what we will need in the future and also what we want as well. And I think, in terms of all the different policies and things that we work on, that's something that we continue to push is just making sure that we get what we need now and that we have the opportunity to continue to move forward later. And so we have to take into account all the things that everyone said, including our well-being, including, I'm a mother to a young son. So what does that future look like for him? And you think about parents and family, what do communities look like for for them as well. And so I think it's sometimes hard for us as women to kind of think about our own economic security, but to think of what it looks like for those around us as well.
And I want to be, I think I want to just even reiterate that what all of you are saying is that this is all about access to quality childcare, access to job workforce training that's going to elevate the increased amount of wages that we have, access to equal pay, access to so many different things that's going to help us change our own dynamic around being economically secure. And as many of you said also, it's not just about the dollars, it's about quality of life, of living. And so when we talk about this thing about access, I think we have to start where it all it points to is that control, being at the table, is political access. We have to be at the table to be able to make the policies that's going to impact all of these things for us. So I want to talk about that and talk about how policy is about everything across the board. When we talk about equal pay, that, having the right policy in place. If we're talking about access to affordable care, we're talking about vouchers, we're talking about policies or bills that may be out there that provides affordable early learning for our children so that we don't have to pay the high cost of daycare. I want to share something that I just recently got offline, and then it talks about the cost of childcare. And this is a biggie. This is a huge biggie, because when we know, when we think about childcare, yes, both men and women have childcare responsibility, but a large bulk of childcare comes with the responsibilities of the mother or the female. It says that the soaring cost of child care is one of the most pressing issues facing families nationwide. The annual cost of child care rivals the cost of a college education in many states, according to a recent analysis from the Economic Policy Institute. The cost of child care is almost half of a woman's income. Did you all hear that? It's almost half of a woman's income. And if you know a woman, how can you change your quality of life when half of what you're earning just goes to child care? It says, except for Washington, D.C. and Massachusetts has the country's most expensive child care. For a 4-year-old, that cost averages $15,000 per year. Now, we're talking about child care. We're not talking about a college education. It's almost $21,000 for an infant. By government standards, only 5% of Massachusetts families can afford infant care. And those numbers are around the same amounts, probably nationwide when I looked at the numbers. So these are the types of challenges that, and if many women, and also went further into the articles that say if many women didn't have supplements to some of this early learning cost of child care, many women would not be able to work and have a whole lot of other issues around trying to work and feed themselves and have a quality of living. So these things around policy and making sure that women are at the table, guiding these particular conversations, putting the bills out there and making sure that we make things happen is so very important. And I think for many women, we can't understand why our leadership doesn't see this as a no-brainer. So, Kyra, will you start off talking about that, and the other women, will you just jump in on this particular topic around policy and political access?
And I think one of the things that I first thought about as you were talking is that experience is kind of the best teacher, When we talked about childcare in particular, and you talked about the cost, my son just started kindergarten this past year, so I, felt like we were getting a raise, and during the pandemic, of course, that was another issue because we were paying for childcare, especially in the early days, and we didn't know quite what was happening. And so we were paying, tons of money in childcare and, still working and still having him at home. And, that takes a toll on you. And so, just those kind of experiences and everyday experiences. And I know that I had a lot of opportunities and I know that I had a lot of help during, these times. But being able to go through these experiences and live through these experiences, it really matters when you're at the table. Because I think I just look back to just this past summer when I presented for the tax hearings, and just kind of even having to explain the fact that, Black people in general didn't make the same wages, or their average incomes are lower than that of, white counterparts, or Cassandra knows best with the equal pay fight. And just even having to explain those basic things to where you can't even really get into the details of the policy, because you're having, there's no consensus on, general facts and data. And so you have to start so far down sometimes with some of these things, and it makes it really hard to kind of get to the policy. But I think that, experience is the best teacher, and having us at these tables and making our voices heard is really such a big part of that, and helping to move some of these things forward.
And Cassandra, when we look at the federal poverty rate sets at $19,000, when the average woman is spending $21,000 on childcare, duh. So talk about the work that you fought a long time regarding affordable child care. Is the number one thing I think that women are saying that they need around wraparound and supportive services to change their quality of life and help them with trying to move their families forward.
Yeah, so this past Thursday, Black Women's Roundtable had our advocacy day at the Capitol with our Mississippi Women's Economic Security Initiative coalition members. And what we did was last year this time we launched the campaign Power of the Pocketbook, that really talks about, and I wish I had one with me, I may have to go get one and show you, but we had our partners to collect and donate over 200 pocketbooks, purses, because we really wanted to demonstrate that women's pocketbooks matters to our households, to our communities, and also to the state economy. And so we delivered over 170 pocketbooks to every legislator, including Lieutenant Governor and Speaker Gunn. And inside those pocketbooks, we, laid out our policy agenda. We talked about what makes a good equal pay bill. And then we also put a little cookie inside of it, made as a purse that had 56 cents on it, that talks about what Black women makes on the dollar. And so we delivered all of those last week, because for us, it was important that they understood that you can't do policy without having a focus on women, right? Because as you said, as we have talked about, women are half the workforce, with 2/3 of the minimum wage earners. As you say, we most of our income, and the median woman's income in Mississippi is a little over $26,000, which isn't a whole lot of money. And a lot of that money goes to child care, which is so key. And so as we're talking about the policy making, I always say is that the policy table needs to reflect women's kitchen tables, right? We are caregivers. We are, we're the caregivers. I mean, let's be real clear about that. So many of us have been caring for our moms, caring for our husbands, caring for our children. I mean, we are they. And so it is important that they understand that our pocketbooks matter, but then also to push for these kinds of policies that all of us have been working on. And yes, equal pay is just one of the things that we've been pushing for. Raising the wages is one. Expanding Medicaid 12 months postpartum, right, is another one, right? And so last week, we went to the Capitol and we have been pushing for equal pay, right, in the state of Mississippi. And they still haven't gotten it right. Everyone's like, oh, equal pay bill has passed. This is great. But no, it's not. It's not good. It's actually the bills that are coming out right now would actually do more harm than what's even under the federal law. And so it is not a good bill right now. And we last Thursday, HB 2451 that Bryce Wiggins is pushing, and also the Attorney General is pushing that bill as well. It leaves out race. And we know that equal pay is also about work, is about, centering race, not just gender, but race, because again, we make 56 cents on the dollar. It also puts the burden, his particular bill puts the burden on the woman to prove that she has been discriminated against in her pay. Well, oftentimes we don't even know that we are being discriminated against. And so the other thing it does not ban an employer from relying on salary history. Salary history is one of those things that creates the wage gap. How many times have we gone to a job and it asks you, what was your previous salary, right? And so that's one of the things that is really problematic, that is not being included in there. And it also will make it to where a woman will have to choose whether she brings a claim at the federal level or the state level. She got to choose which one. You can't do both. Well, it's all right? And so it's a pretty bad bill. And so we're working to make sure that we get an equal pay bill that is not symbolic, but one that really does what it needs to protect workers, all women in the state of Mississippi, and particularly Black and brown workers here in the state. So our pocketbooks matter, and because it matters to our kitchen tables. And so that's what's important.
And and I want to, Arika, I want to address this particular question to you for your comments. It's all about having the right people at the table, the right leadership at the table, the right people who understand the issues about women. But also it's about us. We know in the state of Mississippi and in the South as a whole, women vote. Women, especially women of color, we vote in large numbers. But we're now being challenged on the left and the right with even our access to voting right now. So now these issues that we're talking about today become even more difficult for us to have. So even though women are voting in large numbers and we're doing what we need to do, we are still challenged at the table around policy. So talk to us about what we need to do here in Mississippi around voting. Talk about what the status of where we are right now around voting and what women need to do and do now in 2021 to change the landscape in Mississippi and get to the table the people that we need there. Arika, did you hear that question?
It looks like she's frozen. We may need to have someone else address the question.
And Kyra, can you answer that question for us?
Actually, Willie, if I can interrupt, please. It's Kyra, as soon as you finish, we do have a question in the chat that needs to be addressed.
Okay. So I have to be honest now. I'm not as familiar with everything that's going around in the voting world right now. My brain has been taken up by tax policy over here, unfortunately.
Well, I know Nashambi is working with Rika very closely. Nashambi, would you like to answer that question?
Yeah, and please repeat it, Willie, because I was writing something in the chat. I'm sorry.
Okay, great. I wanted to talk about access to voting. We know in the state of Mississippi, women are voting on a very large scale on every election, every race. But we're still being challenged around good leadership that understands the issues around the policies that impact women. So what do we need to be doing as women in the state of Mississippi to change that around voting, around political access?
Yeah, the voting question is a big one for us. We do turn out very well in both our local, state, and federal elections. And so, we need to keep that up, right? But there's always room for improvement. And Cassandra can tell you, and Arika as well, we always set those benchmarks around how we performed during the Obama elections. Mm-hmm. We came out at 80%. And so we always want to get back to those turnout levels at all elections, not just federal elections. I don't care if it's just for, whoever. I don't want to name a position, someone may get offended, but whoever's running, we want to come out at 80% every time. Our election commissioners and circuit clerks only print 20% of the ballots for, that number of qualified voters, because they know only about 20 or 30% of the people are going to come out. That's very sad. And so our work always is around changing that. Our work is always around proving them wrong, to say, no, we're going to make sure you run out of ballots and have to go back and print some more. Mm-hmm. To make sure that 90% turn out during this election. So that's always our goal. And part of that is for organizations like all of ours to get on those phones, to get people out, to go knock on those doors, to make voting easier. And that means we need early voting, not just absentee voting. Absentee voting is an antiquated system where you have to get something notarized and all of that stuff if you're mailing it in. So we need early voting here. We need same-day voter registration. We need online voter registration. So we need new systems. People always compare Mississippi to Georgia and Texas and states like that. We don't have the things that they have at this point. Texas has drive-through voting. Georgia has drop boxes where you could drop your ballot. Wow. We don't have anything like that, never have. And so, we have a lot, we're very, very behind in Mississippi in terms of our voting systems. So we need to bring our voting systems up to par. And just in terms of our participation in policy, we need to make sure that our participation doesn't stop at the ballot box. We have to stop depending on elected officials to make magic and to wave a magic wand and make everything right for us. That's no longer the case. As women, we have to be participant in the policy that shapes our lives. So we have to be at those city council meetings. We have to be at our boards of supervisors meetings. We have to be at the Capitol. We have to be writing policy and watching policy happen for us. We have to be at that table making it happen.
And I think we got Erika back on, but she got disconnected. Erika, are you with us?
I am. I'm so sorry. I don't want to be repetitive, so forgive me if I repeat something that Nashami just said.
I just laid out your whole the legislative agenda.
Okay, I'll back off. But
the only thing that I missed was the restoration of voting rights.
Oh, sure. So I want to name this while I'm back for however long. So Mississippi is 52% women. And 37% of those women are Black women. The state legislature doesn't reflect that. And so I'm sure Nashami talked about Black women needing to sit at these tables in a position of power. So running for office, absolutely. But at the end of it all, I think it is the weight of communities like ours, Black women and women who run organizations like Black Women's Roundtable and One Voice and Mississippi Votes to not just run folks for office, but to train them on how to govern. Because winning is one thing, governing is another. Because you don't want a sister sitting at the table who doesn't reflect the needs of our communities. We want to make sure that representation is reflective of the communities that we're serving. And I'm saying that specifically because there are some women in the state legislature right now, but folks are flipping parties left and right, and folks are flipping their agenda left and right. And we have to be stern and steady about, what it is that Black women and women of color, LGBTQ folks and young women want and need, and make sure that those things are centered. And we have to be clear about our pull-apart process, right? You don't just get to sit at the table and represent us without our voice being central to how you're talking about policy and how you're talking about community. So there's that. In terms of Mississippi's voting right policies, I'm sure Nashami's also said this, voting rights laws in Mississippi are super outdated and antiquated. The voter rolls are riddled with inaccuracies. I say that every time I speak somewhere. And there are consistent attacks on how we operate our elections administration's process, and particularly how we, drive citizen-driven ballot initiatives. And so that's one of the things that we've been looking at this year. And Cassandra talked a little bit about this too. Just because there's a bill out there that says in name that it supports our issue doesn't mean that its context is driven by our community. So for instance, House Bill 39 or House Concurrent Resolution 39 39 that's introduced by the Speaker of the House that would restore the ballot initiative process isn't necessarily reflective of what our communities want. It puts more control in the hands of the legislature, and that's not what we need, because that's not truly people-centered and people-driven. And when we think about policy creation and elections, and we think about Black women's participation and women's participation generally, who does that affect mostly? Us. And so as many women as possible, as many girls and LGBTQ folks and non-binary folks as possible can join your local girl gang, as I like to call them. So hanging out with the Black Women's Roundtable, Planned Parenthood Southeast, Shiro, One Voice. We have a fellowship called One Girl, One Vote that, focuses specifically for young women and girls who want to learn about policy advocacy. And so all of those things are centered to our work, because we can't talk about civic engagement and political issues without talking about reproductive health and reproductive justice in Black women and girls. And we can't talk about any of those issues without talking about how it affects a piece of policy.
And Arika, we talked about a lot of things, and there's a lot of things we can do. Access to voting. You gotta train more women to lead in our political arena. There's a lot of things that we can do, but also those of us who are part, I say, of the team, even those of us who sit on the benches and keep them warm and are cheerleaders and all those kind of things. We have to do this. We have to, as you stated, it's not something we can just have to do at election time, as Nashambi said. This has to be part of our agendas every day. As we write out our calendars and our to-dos every day, is we have to say to ourselves, what can I do to help me move the needle today? And that might be putting on your calendar for the day or the week, I'm going to call some folks that I know that aren't registered to vote. I'm going to see if I can show up at a particular lunch that are talking about these particular issues. So there's a lot of things that we can do that are beyond election day. So share with us just a couple of things that we as women can make sure that 365 days a year, we are doing what we need to do to move that needle in a very strategic way.
Yeah, most of our organizations, if they're not membership based, there is an avenue to get involved in like our advocacy trainings or in our network and be a part of our volunteer team. So Cassandra has the advocacy days at the Capitol that a lot of women and a lot of women-centered organizations are a part of. And so I advise a lot of folks who want to like get the ground level training on like what these issues are to get involved with the Black Women's Roundtable or Planned Parenthood Southeast, because now Planned Parenthood Southeast is ran by a Black girl named Tyler Hart. Shout out to her. So that makes a lot of a difference too, right? But having access to information that is specific to your community is, and to have a woman that looks like you leading that work makes a lot of a difference in how Black women engage with this stuff anyway, because a lot of times we sit around and talk about policy as if it's like this foreign concept to us, but like really when we're talking about the issues of our lives, we're talking about policy. But so yeah, number one, getting involved with like I said, your local girl game, involving yourself in every election, whether that's voting or taking your child to vote, letting them see you do the thing, right? And showing up to some of these council meetings, going the extra mile to doing the political education and like getting some knowledge for yourself, some knowledge for your community, giving to an organization like the Black Women's Roundtable, especially in a time like this during the legislative session, hollering at Kyra about all of the statistics of whatever. There are so many things to do, right? There is so much to do. There's a lot of volunteering opportunities. You can call your legislator rather. You can join one of the campus groups if you're a student. I know Planned Parenthood has them. We have them. So there is a number of calls to action, especially this legislative session. There are so many mock bills or mimicky bills from ALEC and other states that are seeking to suppress the vote and to take away, women's reproductive freedom. So there's just a number of ways. And I'm happy to share some of those on our website and some of those that are on One Voice's site too.
Okay. Now, I want to give a couple comments from our guests as part of the panel today. or part of our conversation today. And this is one comment says, yes, Arika, I also think that in terms of voter turnout, we, organizations that are focusing on increasing the electorate, have to do a substantial amount of education on the groundwork to connecting voters and non-voters, feel and see the connection between voting and what they direct needs or lack thereof in their own homes, and then creating direct action that pushes them to the ballot. That's really great information. And I'm going to give one question also from our circle today. It says, what can we do generally and Women for Progress specifically do to educate women about the power of the women vote? What is being done to solicit, work with, financially support, and vote for women who run for political office? And so I got to get to one final question, and we're getting tight with the time, but I want to just make sure that we understand too that this whole idea of training, of identifying, training, and supporting women in public office is got to be on the top 3 of what we do. And Cassandra talked about the power of the pocketbook. When we talk about the power of the pocketbook, we as women have got to give women money to run. When women throw their hat into the ring, let me repeat that. When good women throw their hat in the ring to run for public office, they need support. They need support not only with us helping knock on doors, inviting women to churches so they can speak to our organizations, to our place of businesses, whatever they are, but they need money to be able to run. And so we need to make sure that we get that, we make that happen. And we'll be sharing some information on opportunities for that as we move forward in 2021 also. There's a lot I wanted to cover today that we're not going to get to, but we have got to just touch it if we don't do anything but take a little taste on this. And I want to talk about the workforce. Right now, there's opportunities for women in the workforce because of how our wages have gone up. We have opportunities where there's so many jobs, we got to get people back to work. Businesses are offering all types of incentives for work. And then women are saying, I'm not going back to working 2 or 3 jobs. I'm not going to go back to that brick and mortar building because I want to stay home with my children. I want to help raise them. I'm not exactly excited about what my kid has been learning in public schools. I want to create a new opportunity for them to move forward. Cassandra, what are you hearing from the community of women around education and how they're looking at the future of work?
Yeah, really good question. What we've been hearing in community and what I know has been, happening, and I think maybe Kyra could even maybe chime in on some of this as well, is women are really looking at, as you said, ways in which they can make a living but still live, these flexible lives because they have to take care of their families. And so I think what's really important to be watching for is really how these ARPA funds are coming down. I think that's really key and important. And I really hope Kyra can touch on that. But these ARPA funds are going to be so key and important and this is a once in a lifetime, that these funds are going to be coming down, and we got to be able to redirect them into some of these workforce entities so that women can take advantage, of that. And I think that's going to be really key and important. I'm actually going to limit my time, and maybe Kyra can touch on that because she got some critical information around that.
Kyra?
Yes, I'm glad that you mentioned that. And I know we've all kind of talked about all the stuff that's kind of going on in the legislature right now, but that's kind of one of the biggies, one of the things that we've been monitoring and tracking. So right now, as a part of the American Rescue Plan, the state of Mississippi has about $2 billion to spend, and this is flexible funds that doesn't really have a lot of restrictions on how they can be used. The Senate released a plan recently that really puts a lot of the money into infrastructure, and that's kind of what we've been hearing from a lot of our lawmakers is this interest in infrastructure and putting money into there. We have been talking or having conversations with the Southern Economic Investment Project, who did a survey for Mississippians to see kind of what Mississippians are saying that they want. And a lot of it does come down to help with help with utilities, help with housing, help with workforce development and economic development in communities. And so aside from the nearly $2 billion that's coming into the state, there are billions of dollars flowing directly to counties and cities as well. And when we talk about Black women and just Black people in general, and when we talk about economic security and opportunity, this really is a real opportunity for our cities and counties to spend money on things that matter to them. We always hear, after Katrina, after some of the other federal money and things that have come down, about how this money doesn't get to us and it doesn't get to our communities and that it doesn't address our needs. But this is a real opportunity for our local governments to do just that and to invest in its people so that we see a return in investment and the best use of this one-time federal money. And so that's something that we, in terms of calls to action, that's a really good one, because local and state lawmakers are figuring out how to spend billions of dollars right now. And from the plans that we've seen, the conversations that we had, it's not going to people and it's not going to these things that we like to see. And we want to make sure that workforce development, in particular, economic development, and help with these issues that matter to us, that matter to women, that women have to take care of anyway, that we have our voice in that and a say in that as well.
And look, my executive director is giving me a flag on the play, so I know we need to wrap up. But this is so important. We need to. I want to just highlight this thing around workforce development. As a workforce development, I got to just say these are opportunities out there for women that we got to keep our eyes on. And look, if you want to know what's the email Women Progress at Mail Women Progress at Mail MAI at Women for Progress.net, I want to share some real workforce opportunities for women that you need to make sure you be part of. But this is a time for us, when you talk about the ARPA money, American Rescue Plan Act, I want you all to email, to text, to call your legislators, because workforce training is a catalyst to move women to that next stage. Right now, women are saying, I want to change my work, what I want to do in the future of work. I want to do something different. I want to move to another career. I want to pivot. And the key to that is workforce training. You need to have dollars and access to that education, to those certifications that's going to give you the skills to move yourself not only to a higher income, but another opportunity and a quality of life for yourselves. And that those funds can allow us to do that. And our legislators have, our Mississippi leadership has control on where those dollars are being moved to. And then you need to be aware of, where are those workforce training dollars going? How do I access those workforce training dollars? So let's stay woke on that, and let's make sure that we're asking questions and you're seeking information on where those opportunities lie. And the final thing I want to share with you about workforce, this was news from Microsoft recently. It says that the disruptions of the past 2 years have turned out to be longer lasting than anticipated. We haven't gone back to the old normal of commuting to work. Conferences are still remote. Supply chain problems persist. The healthcare system in many places is under terrific strain. In 2021, new disruptions like the Great Resignation caused even more uncertainty. In 2022, successful business leaders will need to address the continued disruption from the last couple of years, and will do so through 4 human-centric strategies. All of them elevate the importance of individuals. All of them improve the employee-employer relationship. All of them test the degree to which leaders embrace innovative management styles. All of them will impact the company's ability to retain and recruit top talent. And all of them have an impact on the business's bottom line. The Great Resignation is a wake-up call for our culture. The Great Resignation is a wake-up call for our culture. So women who are listening, These are opportunities for you to set your own agenda. Businesses and companies and positions that you applied to 2 years ago that they told you no, that door is now open. Opportunities that you thought 2 years ago was not available to you, it is available now. So I'm saying to you, do the research, reach out, make sure jobs that you thought that you never would be able to get, they're open to you now, because employers from all over the country, from where you sit even, are looking for good people. Workforce training, opportunity are meeting together, and for a great opportunity for all of us. So this has been a wonderful conversation. I want to thank all of our panelists today. Gosh, we're going to have a part 2 to this conversation, and we're going to bring all of these same women back. So stay tuned, because we just tapped into part of this conversation around economic security for women. Economic security of women is important to everybody. It's important to our state. In order for us to move ourselves, Mississippi, we have to elevate the quality of life for women. Women and economic security for women is the top priority in Mississippi. It's the top priority in Mississippi. It trumps infrastructure. It trumps everything. Economic security, that's where every focus needs to be, every policy needs to be, every conversation needs to be, and we as women got to be at the top table leading that conversation. So thank you all so much today for joining us. We'll continue to share information in our comments and our Facebook page. We want you to continue to reach out to Women for Progress on our website and tune in to Women for Progress Radio for these continued dialogue around the issues that impact our families, our communities, and each other. So turn it over to our Executive Director, Ms. Thea Faulkner.
I'm going to send it to Michelle Rawls for our announcements.
Thank you. And I'm going to be real brief for the sake of time, but I would like to extend a big thanks to our panel as they have shared their powerful expertise on the economic security for women. Congratulations again to our Women-Owned Business of the Month, Denise Ely, and the Member of the Month, Ms. Angela Grayson. I have a couple of announcements. The upcoming 2022 Prayer and Principle for Success Conference is scheduled for Sunday, February the 6th at 5 o'clock. This event will take place via Zoom, so don't forget to register. Also, as we all know, this month is Black History Month. Happy Black History Month. We have third Thursday of each month at 5:30 with Angela Stewart as she presents History Matters on the WFP Radio Network. Also, a friendly reminder, the Working Women Report hosted by our very own Willie Jones will take place on tomorrow at noon. So please join us for tomorrow. And last but not least, happy 12th anniversary to our Radio Progress Network. They're celebrating 12 years anniversary. And all of the announcements I don't announce today, we will post it on our social media site. So stay tuned and look forward to those announcements. Also, last but not least, if you'd like to join Women for Progress out there in Facebook land, you can join us. You can pay your dues www.womenforprogress.net. You can mail them at P.O. Box 1174, Jackson, Mississippi, or you can cash app us at $ Women for Progress, Mississippi. Thank you to all our Facebook friends and members. It has been a pleasure to be with you today. And don't forget to join us next month, same time, March 1st. Thank you.
Ladies, I want to be very brief and please go back and revisit our chat for our calls to action. But again, happy Black History Month. I want us to realize, listen, I keep thinking back to when 1999 became the year 2000 and the concerns we had. And listen, it's 22 years later, we're into this thing, right? So when it's 2042, what will our children say about the history that's been made? We sit in a seat where we can make history. So remember, now that we're in the room, what are we going to do? We're going to be history makers. We're going to have our voices heard at the Capitol, where decisions are made that impact not only our lives, but the lives of our sons and daughters and future generations. Willie, any closing remarks?
No, I want to just say also we want you to like and share all of these organizations: One Voice, Mississippi Black Women Roundtable, Mississippi Votes. We want you to go to our Facebook page, like and share. That you say, we talked about a lot of ways that you can engage and support this particular effort. And sharing good information, I tell you, is better than sliced bread. So go and like and share all of our Facebook page, all of our social media, Instagram, Twitter, all of that. We want you to like and share and send our information out to all other organizations, and making sure you share this conversation, because all of our program is saved on videos. So share all of this information with all of those, your friends, relatives, and friends. And thank you all so much for joining us today.
Have a great one, ladies. Thank you so much.